Something is for sure. We are eternal.
Hey, Composing Gloves here, and today we are doing another video in the FL12 effects series. Today we're going to be looking at, you got it right, MIDI effects. So I am including this, even though it's technically not in like the effects area thing, because I consider them effects in Ableton. They have a whole separate folder for MIDI effects. FL happens to build them in. They're sort of sprinkled throughout, built in unusual places where you would get MIDI effects. I'm going to cover these in particular, but there are more. I probably won't cover the other ones because they'll be covered in other series where they are more pertinent. But these are effects. These are things that are post-processing and they manipulate MIDI data. That is to say, they manipulate performance data. So we're going to talk about these. Now, one quick one that I will point out that is somewhere else is if I hit my keyboard, let me turn Harmor down. If I hit my keyboard, that's my MIDI keyboard and my velocity is turned off. And this for me was a very desirable effect because the velocity, touch sensitivity on my keyboard, I personally hate in the majority of circumstances. So what I do is because it was a cheap keyboard. But I wanted one with it just in case I did want that. So you can come over here, go to your MIDI settings. So you go to options, MIDI settings, did that kind of fast, or you can hit F10. And I'm using the V25. And you come down here to link note velocity to, and you can link it to these different things. These are all MIDI related things. I put mine on none. So if I put it on velocity, you can see I can control that, but I don't want that. So that's the first of our MIDI effects. Now it should be noted that these effects are not available on every plugin. So for example, some plugins have less, some have more. And it depends on, so like this is a sampler channel. So it's like a different ball game over here. You have this mod X, Y, you have this envelope setting. This stuff is different. And you've got these filters with mod X and mod Y. It's important that you know this because if it's got this, the filter is usually linked up in my experience to wherever you see a mod X, mod Y. And you'll find out why that's important later. For now, this does not have that because it's Harmor. So for me, they're just a bunch of free knobs. Like they're just free knobs. One other thing. So let's open up a massive. And we see we have this extra tab. And then we have this tab. It's the same tab. So we have all these other options. I might cover these later. These are important when you are using, these are important for processing reasons, so they're not MIDI effects. So just thought I'd show you a third party. So I'm going to go back to Harmor, and so we play it, and we'll notice right here, our first one, we have these levels adjustments. Let me see, we have a pan knob and a volume knob, and then you're like, wait a second, we have a pan knob and a volume knob over here. Wait, whoa, wait, we have one here and here. It's like, why do we have so many pan knobs? And you'll see this controls that one. If I move this one, it moves that one. But check this out. This one does not. These are the ones that you ideally set. I end up automating whatever the heck I feel like. But I'm probably going to start doing this more and more because I've run into this problem. You can almost always find a way around it, but it's kind of nice to have a workflow set up. So you could automate this. Let's say you've got a note and that's your note. And I have portamento on. We'll talk about that. And this is going on and we have it down here and we want to automate the volume. Well, if you automate this and then you want to set levels later, you're either going to have to come in here and change a fader or you're going to have to automate something. If you automate this, now this is moving and this is usually pretty visible. So you might want to just use this for your levels. And this could be like your second level set for whatever reason you change your mind. And then, but if you move this, you have the same problem. So the solution is automate this volume knob. This volume knob will do it. And so that is the solution. Now you know the magic solution for that. So this automating this volume knob will not affect these volume knobs, which I guess I didn't demonstrate all that great. Okay, so let's see. This one moves, these do not. So it is a wonderful day when life works out like that. So, all right. So that's the same for panning. So you could do your panning here and automate that. and they don't affect any other controls. Mod X, Mod Y, like I just explained, there's no filter linked up to them, so they're just free knobs. Congratulations on your free knobs. Polyphony. So polyphony is the amount of voices that is supported. So we can play up to 16 notes at one time. And of course, this is where things get complicated and where it starts getting plugin specific. Not all of these controls will work with every plugin. Some plugins will completely ignore this, and they'll ignore other controls here. Just so you know, this is not a guarantee to work. There are other things that work with pretty much everything, like the Arpeggiator, but things like this, the way they code their plugin and the way it's been programmed, and FL may even have special stuff for specific plugins, like really popular plugins like Massive or FM8. I'm just guessing. It's a wild guess, but I'm willing to guess that there's probably special scripts to integrate some of this stuff so it just runs more smoothly in FL, just because they know they're going to be dealing with that stuff. And they make an effort to do things like that. So anyway, so this has its own polyphony setting. You have your unison, and you've got your effects chorus, which also are essentially more unison settings. But you can play up to 16 notes at one time, so you could set a limit. So we can make it so we have 1. And I'm trying to hit more notes, but you see I cannot do it. So it's essentially monophonic right now, meaning it can only play 1 note at a time. Why would you want to do this? Well, the reason you'd want to do this, and like I said, this may not always limit it, but this is a great way to save resources on your CPU. So if you have CPU problems, you may consider using a polyphony option. Because what will happen is you might think 16 separate notes, but other plugins, what they'll do is when you turn your unison on, they will count each individual unison voice as an additional note and each individual chorus note as an individual note. So if you have like 9 chorus and 9 unison, which is already a CPU nightmare, like I do not recommend this, and then you've got a polyphony setting of 16, some plugins will count this, and the way they've been set up to process it, so it'll already be a CPU nightmare, they will process it as 18 voices plus the 1 note you're playing, so you have 19 voices. So you don't want that with the plugin. So, or you may not want that for your CPU reasons, so you can limit it here. And that could be a solution for you. Now you have this portamento. I've described portamento in other times, but portamento, you hit a note, it says, oh, he hit that note at this pitch. And then when you hit the next note, it's going to slide from that note you just hit to the next note that you're hitting. Whoops, sorry. Let me do this. And this slide time is controlled by this knob here. Others like Harmor have more advanced features. I have a whole series on Harmor. Go check it out. It's like a 32-part series. It explains all the buttons and knobs and gives lots of examples of using Harmor. This is another thing that may not work with your plugin, depending on what it is. Most native, I've never had a native FL thing go wonky on me. Monophonic, just 1 note at a time is the limit. But as I just said earlier, maybe the plugin you're working with responds to mono, but it ignores the polyphony setting. This could produce interesting results. So yeah, an alternative way is just set this to 1. But there may be a case where that does something different. So that's pretty cool. So that is that. And we're just going to turn all this off, and I'm going to leave the polyphony known. Who cares? You could turn it off so it doesn't have a limit technically, or you go all the way up if for whatever reason you want to set a limit like that. And that is polyphony. We have time. Time is literally the time. So you hit a note, and what happens when you hit that note? We have gate. Gate is, it will give, as you can see, if we come over here, there's our time. That is the amount of time, I believe in seconds, that the note will sound for. Might be 100 milliseconds. I'm not totally sure. But I'm holding down the note, and it is not letting me go past that marker. And then if I turn it all the way to the left, it lets me go right on through. So that's the thing. If I turn my gate up to be really like a click, this could be interesting. I mean, I come in here occasionally, but I usually use the Arpeggiator with that. As you see, they have their own gate. It's the same control. We have shift. So if I hit my note, and then I'm going to hit it, it actually gets, and we have full portamento on this thing too. Bypass gate when portamento is on. But our portamento is not on, so this doesn't do anything right now. Yeah, but you may be automating some of these things but you'd probably end up automating the portamento inside FL because you cannot target these buttons, which is a bummer. I don't understand why they would not do that, but you can't. Then you have swing. So if you're not familiar with this, if we have a hi-hat, and so we've got a hi-hat, we play notes. Why is my hi-hat not coming out, man? I want the default hi-hat. Am I on pattern 1? I am. Oh, there we go. I was in song mode. Rookie mistake, man. So let's play him. And let's move our swing up. And it sounds like this. It sounds like a swing rhythm, and you can vary it. And you can automate this if you so desire. But this is for the whole pattern. So if we did like I don't know. I probably would not do this with a snare, but whatever. So anyways, that's the thing. But let's say you want your snare not to have this weird funky thing. And so we've set this up and you want this without swing. And it's important to note that your swing must be all the way on. And if it's not all the way on, this is like a limiter. So if it's off, this knob will do nothing. It has to be on. So when it's all the way up, and so your pattern will sound like this. When it's all the way up and your swing is all the way on, so 100% swing, you got swing, and you can do this. And that means that your snare that you're rocking out on can have its own swing. So you could do that, and you could do that in individual patterns. You do have to have your swing up, because if your swing's not on, you see that the swing setting in our hi-hat does nothing. So that's swing, and that's what it does. Those might be rhythms you are interested in. If you're into music theory, you might end up writing those yourself, but if you're an electronic musician who doesn't know jack about how to write music or even read music, then this is what you have to work with. All right, and now we have volume in keys. And so what this does is volume. So these are keyboard tracking things. And what is a keyboard tracking thing? Well, let me pull up a wonderful visual. Forget it. I'm just going to pull up Harmor. Here is Harmor. Here's an envelope. Let's pretend that each one of these lines, let's go to something that's got a not so scary shape on it. Let's pretend that each one of these lines is a key. Well, you could do something like this. And let's say that this represents our filter. So these are our low keys, just pretend, and these are our high keys. And as we move up, you'll see that our filter will turn on. Just pretend. And as we go down, our filter will turn off. We have mapped this filter to the keys, and that is essentially what this right here allows you to do. This maps it. So you have keys and you have volume. So one is mapping. So volume maps it to velocity. So the harder you hit your key, the more different your response will be. So if I were to hit my key harder or softer, it would respond differently. So we have a few options here. First, we have the ability to set our mid. All right, and the way you set up this here volume, well, we're going to use the keyboard because you're going to hear the keyboard, but just so you know, you could do this with velocity too. So the keyboard, we have to set a mid value. This mid value is going to be the point at which there is no change at all to our sound. And so to do that, you simply just select the key you want to control that. So we set the key, and so what we could do is we could set the panning all the way to the left. And now what will happen is we hit lower notes, we get our different panning. And if we were to change our mid value sounds like it's that one, somewhere right in there. Oh, it actually tells you it was F4 or E4 right there. So if we were to take it really low, now our panning is only going to reach the maximum of mono. So then you have to get really high for that to work. So you want to be careful where your mid value is. So if your mid value is actually in the middle somewhere, and you can see up here what it is. So you might not want to link panning to that. Maybe you want to link. Again, we have these free knobs. So these free knobs, you can link things to them to have these knobs control it. I'm not sure. I guess it should still work because it would link the knob value instead of to the whatever parameter you're controlling. So you should still be able to do that. So that's key. You can do the same thing with velocity. So you could have like really hard or really soft. As you see, they give you a percentage instead of a note on how hard you hit it. I'm not going to mess with that because if you leave it on default, it won't matter, and it's not affected if you do that. You only have these 3 knobs to mess with. You don't have anything else. But again, you can link additional things to mod X and Y. I've never tried it, but I'm thinking about it. It should work. So that's that. Next, we have group. What is group? Well, group, when you're playing a drum kit, you're probably going to want to have something. You're going to want to have them in groups. And I'm like talking gibberish right now if you don't even know what I'm talking about. So let's say you've got a hi-hat. And you want, whenever the snare sounds, for the hi-hat to shut up. So you never want the hi-hat and the snare at the same time. But right now, you can't do that. This is more common with an open hat and closed hat. Makes more sense. But what you could do is you can instead set them to groups. So you could say and so a group will say it gets cut by group 1. And so you could have, or you could just have, you could assign it to group 1. Or here you go. My bad. Top one's the group it's in. So we're going to assign these both. We're going to assign this one to group 1. So our snare's in group 1. Our hat's going to be in group 2. And we want our hat. Actually, our hat doesn't even need a group. So our snare's in group 1. That's our cut group, right? That's our cut group. We want our hat to be cut by group 1. It's another thing I need to note, which you're not hearing right now, which is you're probably going, hey, why don't I hear it? What you need is so it will still sound at the beginning because it recognizes that there's something there. But if we were to have a longer envelope, so you can see it bleeds over. We don't want that. A real drummer wouldn't do that. Now, this is obviously not a real drummer, but this is still really useful for making your drum sound cleaner. And get a really choppy, groovy drum sound. So you could set this. We want whenever this is our short hat. This is our long hat. And we want it so that whenever the short hat sounds, this one shuts up. So we're going to assign this one to cut group 1. And we're going to take our long hat and we're going to say you get cut by group 1. And so you see it stops. So we could do something like that. Versus this. So that it may be something that's very important to you. Now, it should be noted that this cuts off the release when there is still activity on here. So it'll skip to the release value. So you still may get the release phase of your envelope. If you don't know what an envelope is, an ADSR envelope, go check out my Harmer video. I have one in the Massive series. I have one in the FM8 series. I've got envelope videos out the wazoo. One day I'll probably even have one specifically for this, but they're all pretty much the same. So go check that out if you don't know what an envelope is. But it will skip to the release phase. So if you have an outrageously long release phase, you may still have a problem. So just so you know, cut groups only chop it while the signal is going on. As soon as the signal is gone, you're done. So anyways, that's the thing. If that made sense, if that didn't make sense, don't worry about it. Just know that it cuts it to, and it will skip it. When it says cut, it means it's going to skip to the release phase. In this case, that's the end, so it's not a big deal. But you'll know when that becomes a problem. Like, you don't understand what I'm saying now, and it does become a problem, and you're trying to use this, it's the release phase. That's your problem. All right, moving on. So now we have our rockin' Harmer. Harmer has, these MIDI effects. Now we're going to talk about the arpeggiator. So we play, and let's say we want an arpeggiator on that jazz. Well, we have this great arpeggiator, and if you don't know what an arpeggiator is, it's something like this. It goes up and down in some sort of a pattern, and it's very classic for old sequencers and synths, and there's a variety of ways to actually accomplish this effect. And we're going to just use this to talk about what this does. So first, we have this timing gate. So, but in order to activate it, you have this up. So this will make all the notes in our chord we're currently playing. It'll go up the notes and just up. So it'll go up, 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 back to the beginning, up, up, up. And this one's the opposite. It will go down. This one will go up and down. And this one will do it will repeat notes at the top and bottom. And then this one's just random. And so that's random. May or may not be something that you desire. After this, we have range. So you might be playing just a simple triad, but you can increase the range of that triad. So we can go up and down, up 4 octaves. Or we could go down. Oh, actually, you can't go down. That's interesting. It repeats the octaves when you do that. I didn't know that. You have this repeat option. So it repeats every note twice, or the arpeggio pattern twice before it moves on to the next octave. Now, you have this slide. Slide will essentially apply a porta to your notes, make it monophonic, sort of. And you can control the rate at this using the time setting. You can get really creative and start out really fast and then go down to your tempo and then just start grooving. That's a pretty popular thing these days. Hold down Alt and click to reset any of these values. Now, this last one, you have chord, and this looks horrifying. I already can see your face now if you don't know what any of this stuff means. So we've been doing auto, which is the classic, what you've been hearing. There's another version of auto. It's called sustain auto. And I forgot what the exact differences were between these, but there are obviously differences. There's none, which is basically defeating this whole thing. I wonder if you can automate this. Oh, you can automate this too. Then you have these chords. So when you play a chord, it will augment, it will arpeggiate that chord. Best to just demonstrate this. So just so you know, those are options you have. And if you go up octaves, so like 4 octaves, so you get really wonky with this. So that's all there is to that. And then finally, we have echo delay. So if you're not familiar with what a delay is, the delay will take your signal. In this case, it's MIDI data. So it'll take the MIDI data and re-trigger your MIDI data again at a specific time after which you've hit. According to this, you have your time setting right here. So how long before your delay happens. So we play a note, and what you first need to do is you need to turn your feedback on. So this is the amount of signal that gets sent back in. So you could play a note really loud, and then a portion of that loudness will be sent into your delay and then spit out at a specified time to create a delay. And as you can see, you get these clips, and yeah, we have 4 echoes. So there's our echoes. Something I didn't really show with the arpeggiator, which I've had an experience where this does not tend to work with the arpeggiator. When we turn the gate on, that is way cool. It shortens the notes, and my dog is going nuts on me right now, man. So anyways, we have feedback. You can adjust the panning of this delay effect, mod X, mod Y, which are linked to that filter, which we do not have access to in this option. So they're just free parameters you can link up to your delay effects. And this is MIDI. Oh yeah, that's something that's why I was thinking about this. This is MIDI data, so I'm not sure this will work. Even what I said earlier up here, I'm still not sure this will work. And then you can adjust the pitch of them after. Now, it should be noted that this is an incremental change, meaning if you raise the pitch of 1 by 45 cents, the first echo will be raised 45 cents, the second echo will be raised 90, and so on and so forth. It'll be raised in incremental values. So I'll just demonstrate that. So I recommend using an actual delay, an audio delay, if you're looking for some serious delay effects, because we get these click sounds because it's using MIDI data. Fat mode, what it does is if you've got like some obnoxious sound but you still want delay on it for like some unknown reason, this might be of help to you. It'll delay it, but it will do it differently so that you don't get super aggressive delays. It's noticeably softer. So, and that's that. So you can adjust your time. And let's turn it up. And turn our feedback on. And it'd be interesting to automate this while it's going. So yeah, those are all things. Now these last little bit down here, you have your enable main pitch. So this is your keyboard. So yeah, if you turn your feedback all the way on, it will like never end, just so you know. It's like a never ending loop. Oh, and ping pong, if you do panning, as soon as the panning reaches a maximum left or maximum right, it'll bounce back and forth between your speakers. So we do that. So if you have stereo, you should have heard that pretty easily. So that's all I'm going to say about that. You can fine tune. So you can adjust the tuning using MIDI data instead. You can click this, it'll give you a bigger keyboard. And you have this add to key, which has to do with multi-samples and stuff. These aren't really MIDI effects at this time. This is like MIDI interfacing now. So these are your basic MIDI effects. Very useful. And that's all I have to say about that. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. And have a blessed day.
Opposing gloves. Reversing.